Someone looked at you and decided you weren't a threat. Maybe it was a colleague who talked over you in a meeting. A friend who stopped returning your calls once they got what they needed. A family member who still treats you like the version of you from 5 years ago. The one who didn't know what they know now. And the worst part, you felt it happen. In real time. You watched them size you up, file you away, and move on. You told yourself it didn't matter. You told yourself you'd prove them wrong eventually. But here's the truth most people never face. They don't regret underestimating you until you make them. Not by begging for respect. Not by explaining your value. Not by working harder to be noticed. By becoming someone they can no longer afford to ignore. Niccolò Machiavelli spent his life watching exactly this happen. He saw rulers rise from nothing because their enemies dismissed them. He saw the quiet ones become the most dangerous ones because nobody bothered to prepare for them. And he wrote it all down. Today, you're going to learn 8 psychological moves that don't just earn respect. They make people look back and realize they made a mistake. But before we go any further, let me be clear. This isn't about revenge. Revenge is emotional. It's messy. It costs you more than it costs them. This is about strategic elevation. You don't go to them. You become so undeniable that they have to come to you. And when they do, they find someone they no longer recognize. Drop this affirmation in the comments if you're ready. I don't chase respect. I build it silently. Now, let's begin. Number 1, the strategic withdrawal. Most people think the way to correct an underestimation is to try harder, to show up more, to explain themselves better, to prove they deserve a seat at the table. That's the exact wrong move. When someone underestimates you, what they're really saying is, I've already decided who you are, and I don't need to update that file. Every time you try to correct that decision directly, you reinforce it. You look desperate. Desperate people confirm the very judgments they're trying to escape. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote that a prince who is not respected must first withdraw from the field where that disrespect was formed. Not in anger, not in protest, in strategic silence. Here's what that looks like in practice. Someone underestimates you at work. They assume you won't push back on a bad decision. They assume you'll accept the extra work without complaint. They assume you're grateful just to be included. The strategic withdrawal isn't about refusing to work. It's about becoming selectively invisible. You stop volunteering information they didn't ask for. You stop showing up to meetings where your presence is taken for granted. You stop explaining your decisions to people who've already made up their minds about you. And here's the critical part. You do this without announcement. No speeches. No dramatic exits. No, you'll regret this energy. You simply become less available, less predictable, less easy to read. What happens next is almost universal. The person who underestimated you starts to notice gaps. The thing they assumed you'd handle, it didn't get handled. Or it got handled differently than they expected. The insight they assumed you'd share, it stopped coming. The compliance they assumed was permanent, it quietly evaporated. And because you didn't announce anything, they can't accuse you of anything. They can't say you changed. They can only feel the difference. Think about someone in your life who became less available, and you suddenly realized how much you relied on them. That wasn't an accident. That was a strategic withdrawal, whether they knew it or not. The first move is simple. Stop performing for people who've already stopped watching. Number 2, the Competence Reveal. People who underestimate you have a mental file on you. It's outdated, it's incomplete, and most importantly, though, it's static. They think they know your ceiling. They think they've seen your best. They think they understand your range. Your job is to make them realize they were looking at the wrong floor. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should never reveal the full extent of his capabilities until the moment when doing so serves a clear purpose. Not to impress, not to brag, to recalibrate how people measure you. This is what I call the Competence Reveal. Most people show everything they can do immediately. New job? They volunteer every skill. New relationship? They reveal every talent. New social circle? They perform constantly to prove their value. Smart people do the opposite. They hold back. They let people form an incomplete picture. And then, at the exact moment when that incomplete picture is being used against them, when someone is counting on their limitations. They reveal something that rewrites the entire equation. Here's a practical example. You're in a meeting. Someone who underestimates you dismisses an idea you have. They frame it as naive, unworkable, beneath the level of discussion. In the old version of you, you might have argued. You might have explained. You might have tried to convince them. Instead, you wait. You let the conversation move on. And then, at the exact right moment, when the group is stuck on a problem that your naive idea actually solves, you present the solution. Not as a comeback. Not as an I told you so. Just as a contribution. Calm, confident, as if it was obvious all along. The person who dismissed you is now in an impossible position. They can't dismiss it again without looking foolish. They can't ignore it without looking incompetent. They have to absorb the new information, and with it, the new version of you. But here's what makes this move devastating. You only reveal competence that is directly relevant to their underestimation. If they thought you were unstrategic, you reveal strategic thinking. If they thought you were emotionally reactive, you reveal calm under pressure. If they thought you were limited in your abilities, you reveal a capability that makes their assessment look ridiculous. You don't become good at everything. You become undeniably good at the exact thing they said you weren't. The competence reveal works because it doesn't argue with their judgment. It overwrites it, and once overwritten, it can't be unwritten. Number 3, the indifference signal. There's a specific facial expression that changes everything. It's not anger. Anger means they got to you. It's not hurt. Hurt means they matter more than they should. It's not effort. Effort means you're still trying to win their approval. It's indifference. Machiavelli observed that the most unsettling thing for an enemy, or anyone who has wronged you, is not your retaliation. It's your complete lack of reaction to their actions against you. When someone underestimates you and you respond with indifference, something breaks in their mental model. They expected you to care. They expected you to try. They expected you to perform for their attention. And when you don't, they're left with a question they can't answer. Did I misread this person entirely? The indifference signal isn't about being cold. It's about being unavailable for their narrative about you. Here's how it works in real life. Someone who underestimated you reaches out. Maybe they need something. Maybe they're testing whether you're still the person they dismissed. Maybe they're feeling the first hint of regret and they want to see if the door is still open. The old you would have responded immediately. Maybe with enthusiasm. Maybe with resentment. Either way, you would have responded. The new you waits. Not to punish. Not to play games. But because your attention is no longer a resource they can access for free. And when you do respond, if you respond at all, it's brief. Neutral. No emotional charge. No hint that their absence affected you. No hint that their presence matters now. Think about the people in your life who always seem unaffected by drama. Not because they don't feel things, because they've learned that emotional availability is a currency, and they don't spend it on people who've already shown them their price. The indifference signal is devastating because it communicates something words never could. You are no longer in the category of people whose opinion I need to manage. And once someone realizes they've been moved to that category, the regret begins. Number 4, the alliance shift. People who underestimate you do so in a context. They have allies. They have a social position. They have a network that validates their judgment of you. Your 4th move is to change the map they're standing on. Machiavelli wrote extensively about alliances. Not the alliances you announce publicly, but the ones you build quietly. The ones that shift the balance of power without anyone realizing the ground has moved beneath them. Here's what most people do wrong. When they're underestimated, they try to win over the person who underestimated them. They try to change that one person's mind. They focus all their energy on a single relationship that has already proven resistant. Smart people do something else entirely. They build relationships with the people around that person, not to gossip, not to recruit allies against them, simply to become so connected, so valuable, so present in the broader network that the person who dismissed them is now the outlier. Let me make this concrete. Someone at work underestimates you. Instead of trying to win them over, you build stronger relationships with their peers, their superiors, the people whose opinions they actually respect. You don't mention the conflict. You don't campaign against them. You simply become indispensable to everyone else. What happens? The person who underestimated you starts hearing your name in contexts they didn't expect. They hear about projects you're leading. They see people they respect treating you as someone worth knowing. They realize that their private judgment of you is now contradicted by the public reality, and they can't explain it without revealing their own mistake. This is the alliance shift. And it's one of the most elegant moves in strategic psychology because it never requires a direct confrontation. The person who thought they could afford to dismiss you now has to recalculate. Because the social cost of maintaining that dismissal has gone up, dramatically. And here's the beautiful part. When they finally come around, when they finally approach you with respect, you can accept it graciously. Because you never declared war. You just changed the landscape they were standing on. Number 5, the delayed response. There's a psychological principle that most people never exploit. The value of a response is inversely proportional to its speed. When you respond immediately to everything, every request, every slight, every opportunity, and you signal abundance. Not of resources, of availability. And abundance of availability destroys perceived value. Machiavelli understood that a prince who is too accessible becomes ordinary. Familiarity doesn't breed contempt exactly. It breeds assumption, and assumption is the death of respect. The delayed response is simple in concept and powerful in execution. Someone who underestimated you asks for something. Information, help, a favor. Your time. In the past, you would have provided it immediately, partly because you're capable, partly because you wanted to prove your value. Now you wait, not forever. Not so long that it becomes rude or unprofessional. Just long enough that they feel the gap. Long enough that they wonder whether you'll respond at all. Long enough that when you do respond, it arrives as an event rather than an expectation. And when you do respond, it's complete. It's high quality. It's exactly what they needed. But it arrives on your timeline, not theirs. This does two things simultaneously. First, it trains people that your attention and your output are not automatic. They are earned. They are allocated. They are valuable because they are scarce. Second, it creates a subtle anxiety in the person who underestimated you. They start to wonder what changed. They start to question their own judgment. They start to realize that the person they dismissed is now someone they have to wait for. The delayed response isn't about being difficult. It's about being intentional, and intentionality is one of the most powerful signals of strategic maturity. Number 6, the standard elevation people. Who underestimate you do so based on the standards they've observed. They think they know your standards because they've seen your past behavior. They've seen what you'll tolerate. They've seen where you compromise. They've seen the version of you that was still learning, still accommodating, still trying to be liked. Is to change the standard itself. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must sometimes do things that seem harsh in the moment, but establish a new baseline for how he is treated. Not gradually, not through hints, through clear, unmistakable action. Here's what this looks like. Someone underestimates you in a negotiation. They offer terms that reflect their low assessment of your value. In the past, you might have countered weakly. You might have accepted less than you deserved because something felt better than nothing. Now, you decline entirely. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just clearly, that doesn't work for me. And then you stop talking. The silence that follows is where the standard is set. They expected negotiation. They expected you to meet them in the middle of their low offer. Instead, they got a wall, a boundary, a clear signal that their assessment of your value was wrong, and that the cost of discovering that wrongness is the deal itself. This applies everywhere. In relationships, in business, in social dynamics, the person who elevates their standards doesn't just get better outcomes. They force everyone around them to recalibrate their entire model of who that person is. And here's the key insight. You don't need to explain your new standards. The fact that they exist is the explanation. People will ask why you changed. They'll want the story, the justification, the narrative they can file away. Don't give it to them. Your standards are not up for discussion. They are simply the new reality, and reality doesn't need permission to exist. Number 7, the public competence. Most of your moves have been quiet, strategic, invisible to anyone who isn't paying close attention. But there comes a moment when quiet isn't enough. When the person who underestimated you needs to see, not just suspect, that they were wrong. This is the public competence reveal, not a speech about how you've changed, not a social media post about your growth, not a conversation where you explain your new mindset, a demonstration in public, where they can't look away. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must sometimes perform his competence where it can be witnessed by those who doubt him. Not for applause, for recalibration. Here's the difference between private competence and public competence. Private competence is what you know you can do. It's your confidence, your preparation, your capabilities. Public competence is what you demonstrate in a context where your underestimator is present. It's the presentation that silences the room, the insight that reframes the entire discussion, the solution that nobody else saw, and the critical element. You deliver it without any reference to the past. No, as I've been saying, no, I tried to tell you, no hint that. This is a response to their earlier dismissal. You simply perform at a level that makes their previous assessment impossible to maintain. Think about the last time you watched someone do something you didn't think they were capable of. Not something impressive in the abstract, something that directly contradicted your specific assumptions about them. That moment of recalibration, where your mental file on that person gets ripped up and rewritten. That's what you're creating, and once it happens publicly, it can't be undone privately. Number 8, the unbothered ascent. This is the final move. And it's the one that separates people who earn respect from people who become legends. Most people, when they start succeeding after being underestimated, can't resist the urge to look back, to acknowledge the people who doubted them, to reference the journey, to let everyone know that they proved the doubters wrong. This is a mistake, because the moment you acknowledge the underestimation, you give it power. You make it part of your story. You make the doubters part of your narrative. The unbothered ascent is different. You succeed. You rise. You become the person nobody thought you could become. And you do it without ever referencing the people who didn't believe in you. Machiavelli understood this at a profound level. He wrote that the most powerful position is not the one where you've defeated your enemies. It's the one where your enemies have become irrelevant. They don't get a comeback story. They don't get to be the villain in your success narrative. They don't get the satisfaction of knowing they mattered enough to be proven wrong. They simply watch you become someone they no longer have access to. Someone whose world they can't enter. Someone who moved so far past their judgment that the judgment itself looks ridiculous in retrospect. This is the ultimate revenge, not because it harms them, but because it erases them from your equation entirely. They become a footnote in a story they're not even mentioned in, and the regret they feel isn't the sharp pain of being confronted. It's the slow, dull ache of realizing they had a chance to know you, to respect you, to be part of your ascent. And they missed it. Not because you excluded them, because they excluded themselves through their own judgment. And now that judgment is a relic, a fossil, something that belongs to a version of you that no longer exists. The synthesis. How these moves work together. These 8 moves aren't separate tactics. They're phases of a single transformation. The strategic withdrawal creates space. The competence reveal rewrites their file. The indifference signal removes your emotional availability. The alliance shift changes the social map. The delayed response elevates your perceived value. The standard elevation establishes new boundaries. The public competence provides undeniable proof. And the unbothered ascent makes the entire transformation permanent. But here's what I want you to understand about all of this. The goal isn't to make people feel bad. The goal isn't to punish anyone. The goal is to become someone who cannot be underestimated, because underestimating you has become too costly. Machiavelli didn't write about power so that people could become villains. He wrote about power because he understood that the world is full of people who will take advantage of anyone they perceive as weak. And the only defense against that, the only real defense, is to become someone they can't afford to misread. Someone looked at you and decided you weren't a threat. That was their mistake. Your job now is to make sure it's the last time anyone makes it. The choice you now have 8 moves, but knowledge without application is just entertainment. So here's what I want you to do. Pick one of these moves. Just one, the one that resonated most deeply with you. The one that made you think of a specific person, a specific situation, a specific moment where you felt underestimated and didn't know what to do about it. For the next 7 days, practice that one move. Not perfectly, just intentionally. Notice how people respond differently. Notice how you feel differently. Notice how the dynamic shifts when you stop performing for respect and start building it silently. And remember what we talked about at the beginning. This isn't about revenge. Revenge is small. It's temporary. It ties you to the person who hurt you. This is about elevation, about becoming someone who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Because the proof is already visible in every interaction, every outcome, every standard you refuse to compromise. The most dangerous person in any room isn't the one who yells the loudest. It's the one who was underestimated, stayed quiet, and became undeniable. Which one are you choosing to be? If this video gave you something you're going to use, hit that like button. If you know someone who's been underestimated and needs to hear this, share it with them. And if you want more content that goes this deep on psychology, strategy, and human behavior, subscribe and ring the notification bell. Drop a comment below. Tell me which of these 8 moves hit closest to home. Which person came to mind when you heard it? I read every single one. Until next time, stay strategic, stay silent, and stay undeniable.